It's the one place I found myself being able to show up irrespective of what my emotional state was, and always leave there feeling better than when I arrived.
And it's not fun at all. I always say rehab and physiotherapy is like the opposite of a massage. People think it's sometimes, nice to go to those places, but it's pretty awful in a way. You get really pushed to a limit where pain becomes your friend, has to become your friend in order for you to heal.
Even when you're doing it badly, because you're just not in it, you self-sabotage whatever it is, you've still added to that bucket.
Practice, yeah.
That bucket of longevity, of muscle growth, of all of those type of resilience, of mental fortitude, all of those things that will show up for you the next time you experience a challenging moment in your life.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Zen and Now. Today I have an incredible guest with me. She's a force of power and calm, blending martial arts with mindfulness. Meet Zaheera Khota, a mindfulness practitioner and a fierce wellness influencer who's kicking out stress to the curb, one breath at a time and one strike at a time. So welcome to the show, Zaheera.
Thank you, Kishen. It's an honor and a privilege to be included in a platform that advocates for the wellness and just trying to impact people's lives in a positive way.
No doubt. We at least have to try, right?
Well, I think you're more than trying. You're actually doing, you're out there and people are listening. And, with time, all it can do is give momentum. So, yeah, I'm honored.
No, welcome to the show, and truly grateful for your time and sharing your journey with us. So let's get into it. So Zaira, just give us a little bit of a brief background. Where you're from, how you grew up, what's your interest, and how did you get into the martial arts and wellness space?
Okay, so born and bred South African, Johannesburg. My day job is working in renewable energy. I pride myself in being able to be in an industry that is forward thinking and is aligned sustainably with the environment in the best possible way. I am a senior manager for economic development. So I package projects for giving back to the country, the economy, and local communities ultimately. Very impact based, very high performance as well. It's an extension of my personality. And in terms of the wellness side, you could say it's something that has served me and that I grew into and found myself in many aspects of my being, of my personality, my ability to deal with life's myriad of challenges that have come my way over the last decade. And it served me to a point where it's an extension of my identity now, and it's something that I absolutely am the most grateful for. Um, I started out with running. On the treadmill, I was incredibly shy many years ago. I hope nothing to be ashamed about.
Exactly,
Um,
exactly.
I'd like to think that I still do have that. I think it's quite a nice quality to have. But anyway, it was just a commitment to showing up. Just show up every day. And how I showed up was on the treadmill at the gym. And thankfully, I'm competitive towards myself. So I'd set myself challenges, and eventually I was running 10 kilometers on a treadmill. And
Oh,
then I
nice.
took that outside. Um, and when I started working at a company that had this kind of like an MP challenge, which was like 18 obstacle courses and 12 kilometers of running, trail running outdoors, which got me quite excited. And that through that avenue, I started introducing myself to functional training, weight training. We had lockdown, which was just initially was such a huge, I'd like to say challenge, as in like,
Yeah.
so now we're not allowed to leave our house. How am I going to make this work for me? Because I absolutely have to be active. I think it's over time, more than anything, it was about the mental benefits. Um, it's the one place I found myself being able to show up irrespective of what my emotional state was, and always leave there feeling better than when I arrived. And so back to lockdown, a few days before the lockdown, I equipped myself with key weights and a skipping rope and a few things. And I committed to every single day. I have 24 hours in the day, of which I probably will have very little to do because I was taking loan at the time. And that's pretty much how I started pushing myself, and where I could see the benefits of, I think, transcending your own personal thresholds. I think we always operate within a perception of what we think we're capable of.
Yeah.
The value of lockdown, I think it puts you under such immense mental, you have to be so mentally resilient to get through the lockdown, right? That I think you needed an equivalent outlet. And I think in so doing, I found myself even more so entrenched in fitness, in being active. And as I emerged from lockdown, I think I became much more intentional and purposeful. And that is my journey within fitness.
Okay.
Within martial arts, which you've asked me specifically about, that journey began about, I cannot remember, about 8, 9 years ago. Um, my Sifu was living in the same complex as me at the time, Sifu Raymond King. And he used to do Tai Chi and Kung Fu in the garden. And I used to
Oh,
watch
nice.
him. And one day I asked him, could I join your class for Tai Chi? I had no idea what my capability was in the field of martial arts. So I started out in Tai Chi, did it for a year, and then he opened up more classes for Kung Fu. And he said he thinks I should try it out because he thinks that I would be more inclined towards Kung Fu than Tai Chi. And I did. And within 1 year, I competed in Singapore at a national level for that form of Kung Fu, being Jiaoga. I achieved a silver medal, which was an incredible experience. I mean, there were people from all over the world. You get to see what martial arts means in a cultural sense, you know, and the level of commitment that comes when it is actually part of your culture was truly humbling, in that you realize that it's not just an expression of movement. More so, it is underpinned by the values that you need to embody in order to be a martial artist.
Right.
And, I know it the most within Kung Fu, but I can tell you that that set of values exists whether you do Muay Thai, whether you do karate, or any other form of martial arts, taekwondo, boxing as well. As much as it is tactical,
Yeah.
it requires that you act out of integrity, that you embody discipline, that you have honesty in all your dealings. And I
And you
think
respect
the
the
folks,
you respect the practice basically. You show it the respect it deserves.
you respect the practice, you respect its heritage, and I think more so, you embody what you have to become in order to be a good martial artist. And in order to be someone that is well rooted in its purpose, before you actually out there doing whatever movements that it
Right.
demands of you. So
And how challenging was that to actually say that, okay, within your own mind, I'm gonna commit to this practice and I'm gonna show it the full respect it deserves. Because I tell you what, sometimes people start things and they like when they get to a certain point, when the challenge gets too heavy on the shoulder, you just give up. I know it happens. And for
Hmm.
you, how did you maintain the mindfulness to keep going?
Absolutely. I think it's on two fronts. When you're an adult, that commitment in time is usually a trade-off of something else. It's
Mhm.
time taken away from loved ones, time that sometimes you just cannot commit to due to work commitments, family commitments, or whatever it may be. The other part of it, I think, is an acceptance that in doing this, in learning an external self-expression requires you to go internally within yourself. And I can tell you personally, when I first committed to it, it really did reveal my ego, because like more often than not, we look at something and say, oh, I could be able to do that within whatever space of time. Let me show you.
Yeah,
And, there's one thing to actually do a movement. So a punch is a punch is a punch. But then to actually honor the movement. And I think the thing with Kung Fu is that it requires you to have a sense of flow. And that sense of flow requires you to have an intuitive sense of your body because you actually need to shift your weight.
yeah,
So it's more about shifting your weight from the right to the left hand side, right? And in that flow movement, that is how you either resist movement by defending or you actually attack.
attack. Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah.
So
So,
similar to water, like how water you know, can be gentle and aggressive at the same time. So you have to move your body in a certain way to mimic that flow. And once you're in the
yes.
flow, it's a beautiful thing.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, when we did speak about this once before, you mentioned Bruce Lee and be water, my friend. The thing about flow, right, is that you need to go inside yourself and ask, what are you resisting? So, usually when you're flowing through something, you are not resisting. Now, the thing is with mental resistance is that it shows in the body. And specifically with Kung Fu, with a movement like Kung Fu. If you are too hard in your stance or something, usually it speaks to a need to control
Mm.
things within. And that was the journey for me, as in, I think when I first started doing it, I had a need to prove myself because I was quite timid in build. Like my frame was small. There's a lot of men there that have a certain build, and I wanted to come across as strong and competent and intelligent also. So I felt like I had a lot to prove. But when you're operating from that level, you're operating from a sense of ego, from a sense of self. And I think what martial arts demands of you is to be that your body is a vessel or a conduit of expressing something that has
Right.
existed for generations before you were around. You are, and in your expressing, there's a part of you that comes through. But first and foremost, you are committing to the art form in the way it needs to be expressed. And it's not just to say that you're committing to expressing an art form, but tactically, you need to embody a level of flow in order to impactfully defend yourself or attack someone. Um, so yeah, it's been definitely a journey. If I think of how I was in year one, it was great. I had made a considerable progress, but that came from commitment. I was putting in the hours outside of my class. You know, I leaned into the discomfort. You know, the one thing about martial arts that you probably know as well is the horse stance. Very uncomfortable stance to stand in. You're
Yeah.
pretty much in like a squat position with your back straight. And to hold that position for like 3 minutes or 5 minutes, it's like all of your muscles burn.
Oh yeah, for
Um,
sure. Certain.
yeah,
It's like I did a yoga class once, and I thought it said easy flow, my friend. Like, okay, sure. Having been active all my life, I didn't think too much it's going to be too much for me, but I felt it 2 days later. I was like, simple movement, nothing too hectic, but it's the intensity at which you hold, like you said, which you have to hold the pose, and what muscle is activating, probably what they were dormant for forever and now started to reactivate. But it's not about going in gung ho and breaking things or smashing things and smashing people. It's about what is it that you are trying to achieve, and if you focus full heartedly, it becomes first it becomes a challenge, but a challenge that improves you mentally and physically. Then you start to realize, okay, I understand that my body needs I need to push myself to a certain extent to get the best out of me. And sometimes we sit in that carcass of just being there, being comfortable in a situation or in a place that we know is good for us. Not There's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. Full disclaimer: I'm not saying that is the wrong thing. That is just my feeling and my thoughts on how one needs to improve themselves is to literally put themselves out there in a little bit of a uncomfortable situation. Start small, and then you gain momentum, like you said. It becomes easier on you. You feel a little less anxious about going into that difficult practice. That difficult practice becomes the comfortable practice. Then you need to start again. We continuously evolving and learning new things. And yes, there comes a time when you just need to also relax a bit. Like right now, I picked up an injury. I know I got to look after my body. I can't really do the things that I usually do, uh, and that's okay. Before, I would be more inclined to rush my recovery to get to a place where I was active again, and I never really looked after it. Whereas right now, having gone through all of those experiences, I understand, okay, it's going to take time. Be kind to yourself, and slowly, slowly, you get to the place where you want to be again.
yeah. Um, on that front, so the first part that you mentioned was the curiosity about yourself. I'd like to think it's curiosity. Things like martial arts and any form of whatever form of activity you choose to do or movement, it makes an honest person out of you, because at some point you have to put all your ego aside and actually face
Mm.
that I do need to put in the time to be better at this, and I appreciate that there's few other arenas where we can show up. The upside of that is that you show up with curiosity instead, and you show up with your inner child. And there's few other areas as an adult where you're able to do that, and the discomfort is just an opportunity for you to expand your self-concept. The discomfort that you experience when you're doing, whether if you're into weight training and it's the extended reps, or if you're into any kind of martial arts and it's holding a stance for kung fu, for example, it's painful, but the obvious is that mentally you're committing to something longer than feels comfortable, so you're stepping
Yeah,
out of that. Your muscles are tearing, right? So you're going to have some kind of muscle growth and some kind of aesthetic benefit. But more than that, your self-concept, because you do that consistently over time, and your sense of identity of what you thought was possible within yourself has now broadened. And
exactly.
that shows up in every other part of your life, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're at work, in your family, because you start to ask yourself, what else is possible?
Right.
And you start to seek for opportunity through discomfort as opposed to something that you need to fear. And I think fundamentally that is how being active and how martial arts has served me, in that it got my mindset out of a fear-based thinking because something was uncomfortable towards a thinking that was more curiously inclined, more inclined towards seeking for opportunity, and in so doing, realizing the benefits through growth in every way that it shows up. Um, the other part you were talking about was being injured, and I know that's incredibly hard. I think I would be quite miserable if I were injured because of, how much I rely on being active. But, on that, I've realized that given that life is ever changing day to day, something can happen today and tomorrow your time could be far more constrained. It's important to meet yourself where you're at with your journey in fitness and movement. As in, if you're going to a place where the weather is bad and you usually run and you're unable to run, then find the alternative that will still satisfy that part of you that needs to be satisfied. And in so doing, you're also able to show yourself the dynamism that you're capable of. So even when you're injured, I do believe consistency is important. You're showing up not at your max or your optimal level, but you're still showing up in a way that serves you and what you need at that time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still showing up for myself in terms of recovery exercises.
Yeah.
So my mind is telling my body to heal with the inclusion of exercise. And thankfully, within our building, we have a pool, and so that's less resistance but high impact still. There's not much uh, excessive force on your muscles or on your body. Even if you just walk in water, it's still you're still activating those muscles, and it
Yes.
helps. So those kind of things I had to learn to incorporate because I've gone through many injuries in my life, and sometimes when there wasn't that avenue to keep motivation or keep motivated or consistent, I I would just I would just linger and thought, okay, it's gonna heal on its own. Because coming from uh, a background where we weren't really educated in terms of our bodies, we were just active. We got injured, let rest, ice, a bandage, and you let it rest, and when you're feeling better, you start to go again. But there's so much fundamentally more that we needed to understand or given advice on. And I feel had we had gotten that kind of exposure to the information, not to say curiosity wasn't within us to actually find it ourselves, but I mean, sometimes you really don't understand the mechanics of the body at a young age because you need somebody actually to guide you through it. And only once I got into a professional environment in terms of sport, then people started to explain it to us how certain things work and your dynamics, your movement, and what muscle goes where, what works with what. Then you started to really take interest in self care in terms of injury uh, awareness, and just to limit the amount of time you get injured as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's it's holistic in a sense that what you do day to day determines your capacity to prevent injury and to deal with injury when you do have it. If you're someone that, offers yourself dynamism in movement, so like one day you swim, one day you run, one day you're doing whatever else that it is, you're setting yourself up for that level of dynamism to meet yourself where you're at, no matter where on the spectrum of fitness you are, or if it's a mental thing or an emotional thing that you're experiencing. The other part in injury and the way it's treated, I think the most fascinating view that I had was one time when I sprained my ankle. And in terms of like a physio, they would tell you to stay off it for a few weeks. And in Chinese medicine, they actually just wrap it up for a day and they tell you the next day you must get on it, on your foot again. I was obviously happier with the latter because, I'm quite a restless person. So
Yeah.
this was good news for me. And I did try it, and I had a lot of people telling me that you're quite silly, but I don't think it hindered my ability to heal faster. I don't think that staying off my foot would have helped me to heal any faster. I think that it allowed me to think creatively about what else can I do. And yeah, so I think it's a lot of be, knowing your body. And I think that's also what comes with consistently being engaged in some form of movement or fitness activity over time. You
Yeah.
learn your body and you learn to understand intuitively what does it need at that time, possibly more so than what your practitioner or your doctor or whoever would advise. I
Yeah.
mean, they could
Yeah.
tell you, yes, you sprained your ankle, and they'd give you a cautionary view of, how to treat it.
Yeah.
In terms of you as a person and what you've experienced in yourself before, there is a level of intuition that could be applied. I'm not saying, and in terms of like, what can I
Yeah. Yeah.
do
Of
for
course.
myself in the interim? Yeah.
Of course. I mean, I had broken my wrist as well, and it was innocuous. I didn't really know it broke until I went for an X-ray, and I was given two options by the physician: you either stay in a cast for 6 months, or 6 weeks, or surgery, and the time to heal is reduced. So obviously, I took the latter because backstory is I broke my wrist 1 week before my engagement. So
The timing, eh?
my fiance at that time, my wife now, wasn't very happy with me, and so I went into surgery. I broke my wrist on a Monday. I went into surgery on a Thursday. I got engaged on Sunday. So the quick turnaround time to
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and when I came out of surgery, I was immediately on rehab. I was after healing. When the scars healed and the tissue and everything was strong enough to start rehab, I was into it already. And it's not fun at all. I always say rehab and physiotherapy is like the opposite of a massage. People think it's sometimes, nice to go to those places, but it's pretty awful in a way. You get really pushed to a limit where pain becomes your friend, has to become your friend in order for you to heal. It's and hence I probably hence why I'm able to endure a little bit more pain. I mean, I sat through a tattoo for 6 hours, no flinch. So I think I have a pretty high threshold in that sense, but it was a buildup of resilience over time. All of these incidents and experiences helped me build a little bit of a more thick skin, I would say.
Yeah, that's a metaphor for life, what you're saying right there. I feel like most of life has to do with our pain tolerance. But I think it's more than tolerance, our ability, like you said, you beautifully said, make pain your friend. So, at a lot of points in our life, we have no choice but to confront this pain. I think when it's an emotional type, you need to listen out for what the messenger is. What is it trying to teach you? Where is it pointing you towards? And hold out with hope for what is on the other side. I think for
Yeah,
you, it's
for
like,
sure.
okay, I'm doing this because on the other side, I'm a healed wrist, which is like pretty obvious. And I think it's physical, but as a metaphor for what so many people go through that we don't know about, it's so much more about, our, how do we transcend uncomfortable feelings? I think
Yeah,
most importantly, pain. So, and in a sense where we don't distract ourselves, where we're able to face it head on and have the courage and the faith to know that we'll be okay. It's not the end of the world, that there is recovery, or there's another better version of you on the other side.
oh, for sure, definitely. Was there a moment in time when you had probably a similar experience, or you were really challenged to face your uh, what would I say, to face that challenge head on, and you gave yourself the opportunity to do so? Was there a moment in time when you did that?
So are you talking about like physically or more like mentally?
Yeah, well, something that challenged you, both on both spectrums, and you told yourself, okay, I'm going to give myself the opportunity to sit in that and to sit in that circumstance, or am I going to wither away and cowered away from that and just let it be?
I feel, um, yeah, so I think I'm very blessed in that life has given me so many challenges. And at each point has given me the capacity to say the pain of staying in the same place is actually worse than the pain of confronting something that needs to be confronted. And in my own time, I can say that at each point I've confronted the actual pain and
That's
I've
healthy.
done. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, it's definitely not easy. It's probably one of the hardest things that everyone does in their own capacity, whether it's grieving something or whatever it is. That people go through so much. But what I am deeply appreciative of in myself is that I've done so without leaning on a form of distraction. It's very easy for people to avoid something by leaning on your healthy distractions or your unhealthy distractions, however they may manifest. It could be, I don't know, for some people it could be partying in the worst form, it could be some kind of addictions in an
Right.
addictive personality. I think I've stayed fairly safe, and that also coming back to movement is where it served me because it's such an excellent outlet and a means for transmuting discomfort into something positive. And you transmute it into something positive that no one can take from you, including yourself. You also
Right.
can't take that from you. You know, you
Oh,
you
for sure.
you show up at the gym, right? Even when you're doing it badly because you're just not in it, you self-sabotage whatever it is, you've still added to that bucket
Practice. Yeah.
of, yes, yeah, that bucket of longevity, of of muscle growth, of all of those type of resilience, of mental fortitude, all of those things that will show up for you the next time you experience a challenging moment in your life. So yeah, I think, in my own time, I've always faced whatever I've had to face. And I suppose that's where this whole concept of bravery comes from, you know? And it's not so much about being bold. I think that the
Right.
beautiful thing about bravery is that it exists on the full spectrum of emotions that someone can experience. You can be brave when you're feeling so down that all you could do was get out of bed. And that is a brave step to take because in that getting out of bed, you then went to the bathroom and took a shower. And then you looked into the mirror and then you had something to eat. And then you realized perhaps life is not so bad. And you learned to appreciate the little things. And that's what gave you momentum. It could, bravery could be on the days when life was going absolutely amazing and I gave myself permission to celebrate it.
Yeah.
Or it could be overt, where it's something movie like, where it was the courage to step in for something or to intervene or to make my voice heard for some kind of transgression. So, yeah, it's a deeply personal journey, but one that always commands bravery. And at each point, you ask yourself, what is the bravest thing that I can do right now? You know? And no matter if you're feeling terrible or super happy, there is always something that you can do to advocate for yourself in that moment. Or in service, if it's not advocating for yourself, if you're feeling bad, it's in service of of those around you. Oh,
Would you
oh,
say
for the greater good, for the greater good. Yeah.
100%? Would you say bravery is a core value or has been a core value for you throughout
Yes.
your life? Okay.
Um, I don't. So
But
throughout
you know
my
what you
life,
know what I mean? It's something like you've always within yourself, but now
yes.
that you're at a point where you're actually acknowledging it more.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, absolutely. So I feel like that's precisely what it has been. It's not been overt. It's not something that I knew what it was, but it's something that I now have internalized because, if I have to reflect back on all the experiences that brought me to where I am today, the one consistency or the one congruent act or behavior of mine has always been bravery.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this short break.
We're all brave in our own right. It's just how we tap into
Mm.
it, how we make use of it. Yeah, do we show up positively in that frame of mind, or do we show up half-heartedly and we're okay with that? Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
it depends on the
The,
level of where you are in life.
Yeah. So here's the thing about bravery, right? And it's always wholehearted. That's the thing with bravery. You never do, even if if it's the biggest thing you're going to do today because you feel so terrible is get out of bed, you're going to wholeheartedly step out of bed,
Yeah,
because yes,
subconsciously,
even,
it's like
mm,
I get what
it's,
you're saying.
you know, um, yeah. So, and I feel like if there's one thing that I would want to leave or that I would be so curious about knowing about other people is their bravery. I want to understand how other people show up as brave because it gets me excited. It could be one decision or one act of bravery that could change the trajectory of your life. And more
100%.
often than not, if you ask someone a question, they could bring back to a great success story of their life, right down to it started on the day that I walked out from my dead end job. I sat there, someone came and they told me something, and it was absolutely against my values. It made me feel a certain way. And in that moment, his act of bravery or her act of bravery was deciding to walk away. And
Okay,
and
so the list
he did.
for listeners who are listening to this, here's a challenge for you. For watching this podcast, here's a challenge for you. Get a notebook out, get a pen out, and just note down what is it that um, what is your bravery, what is your act of bravery today. Write it down, jot it down, get it out into the universe, and yeah, if you can share it with us in the comments. I would love to see your experiences and your what bravery means to you. So there's a challenge for you.
That's exciting. I'd love to see what people say. Um, Bravery is the most authentic value.
Yeah, yeah, because you're showing
Yeah.
up for yourself. You're showing up for yourself, and you're showing up not just for the sake of it. It's subconsciously, like you said, it's wholeheartedly. Even if, like you said, I'll correct myself there. It's not half-heartedly. You do show up for yourself wholeheartedly, even though you feel that it's not your best, but at that time it is your best.
Mm. It's that one wholehearted act that gives you the momentum you need to shift your your direction
Yeah,
in that moment. And it's different. Like, I've sat with this and I'm like, is it courage? Is it bravery? The thing with bravery is that for some reason, my sense of courage is that it has to be seen, to be acknowledged. Like, that is my view, and it could be wrong. Please feel free to challenge me on that. I feel like
right.
bravery doesn't have to be seen. The thing with bravery is that it is something that is deeply aligned with your soul and your value system. It's the act that you take that is only informed by your personal value system, by your conscious and as a result by your higher self. It's your higher self calling you towards come. Like, it's you listening in that moment to what your soul is asking you to do.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll add to that, which is, yes, people want to be seen in terms of their act of bravery. They want to be acknowledged for it. There are some people out there who want to be put on a higher pedestal for their act of bravery. So they get that that self regulation of, I've done something good. Whereas there's also those that are content with the bravery the act that they've just committed, and saying it's okay if nobody sees it, but I know it for myself. That's enough. So there's two aspects of that. You could be wanting the external validation of that bravery, of that brave act, or you could be okay with just you knowing that what you've done today is an act of bravery. So there's the two aspects, and you could challenge me on that as well. And that's the way I see it. But I am still on that trajectory of kind of like accepting certain things that I do for myself and not having acknowledgement for it is okay. Because sometimes I do struggle with, I've done something good today. Why aren't people saying anything? There's not enough comments. There's not enough views or whatever it is. So I am trajecting more towards it. It's the intention that I'm putting out more than the actual external validation. That's okay.
When your intentions are aligned with a sense of purpose within yourself, then all forms of validation outside of that falls away, because you're aligning with what your creator's intentions are for you more than anything. It becomes less about who else is seeing, but more so about resonance, as in, this feels right to communicate or act on right now, intuitively. And I think that already is aligning with your creator. And my intention is for communicating a message or to align with a certain value system or something that I feel is important to communicate in whatever manner. And when you do that, you put it out there anyway. But when you put it out there anyway, you're also trusting that you'd rather have the right people resonate with you than have it perceived as a form of validation.
100%.
A form of validation for the sake of validation.
Yeah.
And in therapy, they call it an internal and an external locus of control. So an internal locus of control is, usually that refers to people that do things as a form of, I compete with myself only. So long as I've done it and I can acknowledge that I've done it. So they give themselves the space and the breadth within themselves to journey within, how did this feel before I've done it and after I've done it, and that internal sense of satisfaction that this has been complete and it's made me feel a certain way on the other side.
Yeah.
So that's the internal locus of control. And the external locus of control is where you give your internal world more to those outside. People outside, you take up more space in your internal world. And then your value system or your sense of validation comes from how many people acknowledge that I've done this.
Right.
And, in that sense, it's a more of a dangerous and precarious space to be. We are human beings at the end of the day, and it's good to be acknowledged or feel seen. I think more than validation, it's about feeling seen. But I think when you're aligned with your intentions in a sincere and an authentic way, you're more about resonance with the right audience, with like-minded people, because when you do resonate with the right people, they will then pay it forward and carry it through. And I think that's ultimately how you contribute to a system or an environment that helps to lift the common vibration or the frequency.
Yeah, for sure. Do you believe how important? Let me get this question right. how important is support and faith when it comes in terms of, for you, in terms of your journey? How important is faith and support?
First, but in terms of faith, it needs to transcend your limited beliefs of what is possible. Faith challenges you unlike the world would ever challenge you.
For sure. But the reason I ask is because we can do so much by ourselves. Hence, we also need that productive or that confident support around us to actually also drive us and help us along. Because without the support, you can go so far. But I think that support and faith, just pushes you a little further along the way. It's just like a little nudge to keep going. Ultimately, you drive, but sometimes you just need that. Like, when you go on long distance drives, you have two drivers. Sometimes you need that rest so that you can regenerate your energy levels and then go again. Hence why I asked the question, how important is it for you to have support and faith to drive you along?
So, okay, faith first. Faith is fundamental. It's first and foremost. It allows you to establish yourself outside the 3 dimensions of this world. It also allows you to gain perspective that we are travelers in this world. And in so doing, we understand that our journey in this world is not just in the living. It's also, there's a whole life after we pass away as well. When you look at your life, and when you look at your problems from the perspective of everything that exists in the world, you realize how small they are. What is bothering you so much and weighing so heavy on your heart today is just a speck in the number of years that you're existing in this world,
Yeah.
So faith is fundamental. It's first and foremost, and it's also giving yourself the breadth to explore your faith, depending on where you are in your life as well. But with faith comes certainty in the unknown. That's why I say faith first. When you put your creator above everything, you trust.
Trust,
and you move forward. You trust that what he puts forward and what he puts into your life is for your higher good. It ultimately allows you to expand within yourself and to transcend this version of yourself towards a better version of yourself. It also allows you to accept yourself as a conduit. Everything that we are right now, the skin and the hair and everything, is temporary. But what remains is our inner world. And that is something that only our creator can see. We don't even know enough about ourselves, but he knows us infinitely. He knows us when we were born, and he knows us already 20 years from now. And he knows what our journey is. So I would say faith first and foremost, but not just faith, certainty in the unknown. When you move forward with faith and then certainty in the unknown, fear falls away. Because you're not afraid. It's like, I know who has my back. So what is there to be afraid of? And then you start shifting from from fear to positivity or to curiosity. You don't have to be positive. You can just be curious. And so that's the part about faith. The other part about faith and putting your creator first is that it loosens your grip on the world of people. Right. It loosens your sense of self-identity and self-concept in the view of those around you. You are first and foremost concerned with how you are viewed by your creator. and how you are serving people with the intentions that he would want of you in the first instance. And I think when you get that part right, then you will rely on support in a good way. So you won't come from a place of codependency. Neither will you come from a place of being hyper independent. You will be more receptive to who God or your creator is sending into your life at certain points and what their purpose is for that point in time, or who you are sent to actually support at certain points in life as well. I would say personally faith first, because I tend to be hyper independent, something that I'm working on. Yeah. So it's just as a function, probably we could get into a whole conversation about that. But I realize in strengthening my faith, it's allowing me to seek support from a good place, from a healthy place, and from a wholesome place. And in a place that feels comfortable and it feels mutual in the level of trust as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much do you go on intuition on who you know will have your back? The reason I ask is because it's been a challenge for me.
It is a challenge.
Not to trust anybody, but to actually go with my gut feeling. Because I always was like the people pleaser, try to help everyone. Everybody should like me. I like everybody. Why don't people like me? That was me. Was me, because I say I'm not. It's not that I totally disown that trait about myself. I still get those intuition feelings sometimes, but I'm leaning more towards now. Okay, who can I trust from an intuitive perspective that will be there for me wholeheartedly? And I've come to learn it's a very small number, or very limited amount of people that I can actually say, okay, you have my back. And that was hard for me to accept. So that's why I asked, how important is it or do you go intuitively, or is it something that you also, grapple with from time to time?
So, I think it's important to have discernment over the people that you surround yourself with, because ultimately, in the same way that we eat certain things, the people you surround yourself with influences your energy field. However, we don't always get it right, and I think that's the point, that's the challenge. But a key learning curve for me has been that I need to be okay with how I'm interacting with people, so it's like every day and every night when I go to sleep, it's like, did I come from a place of love? Did I come from a place of good intentions, or was it from a place of, fear? Was it from a place, it could be anything, from anger, of distrust, because we are conditioned from past experience to move in this world with a level of paranoia that people could be out to get us. But here's the thing, they could, and they may very well still do it, whether they show us a certain version of themselves. The thing is, that is not our problem. We'll take it and it'll be like, actually, this was not a pleasant experience. I need to process it and I need to sit with it. But in as much as that they were acting within their own capacity, it's not our burden to carry.
Right.
But at the same time, you hold very dear to you that at a certain point in time, your interaction with them served you or served them.
Exactly.
And in some manner, it was either put into your life to help you or support you at a certain time, or it was there as a lesson for you to grow from, and in so doing, attract people that are more aligned with you, with who you are, And I think when I shifted my perspective to that, then I started coming less from, I only have a limited amount to give, because in this world, when we look at everything as energetically informed, and we operate from a place of certainty with God and full trust in God, then we don't
Yeah.
have to trust people. But also when we operate from that, we feel that our capacity to love and to give is infinite. We can give in this world if we're knowing that our Creator backs us, even when we've been hurt. So if someone can let me down today, I will need a few days or time, if I'm honest with myself, to just process it and to bring my energy back towards
Yeah.
myself. But the science even backs it, that when you volunteer or when you give in charity or when you spend time raising your kids, that in itself is a cure to your sadness or your depression in giving back. So there's always enough to give back. And when we operate from a sense of certainty in our Creator, we remove any expectation from people around us.
Yeah.
I
Oh, for
think,
sure.
to the intuition part, the one thing that I realized was if I get a sense of anxiety around someone, then that would be a warning sign that perhaps we're not aligned in terms of whatever it is. That is something that you feel in your body. If your body is feeling resistant, if your heart rate is feeling up, if you're feeling constricted, then that is a sign to step away from something.
Yeah.
That is something that I think is probably the biggest marker of where to guide you, whether it's people or, if you should go to a certain place or take a certain job. Because if you ignore that consistently over time and it's showing up, I firmly believe that that is going to manifest as anxiety attacks, as
Yes.
panic attacks, as consistent raised cortisol levels. So I would say you need to listen to your body. Your body is always talking to you. It's always communicating. It's always sending signals. It's always like you need to check in with yourself. Are you constricted in your throat? Is your heart racing? What is it? Where are you feeling discomfort? And I think that should be a guide for how you move in this world and engage with people.
Yeah, because we're living in such a fast-paced environment where we have access to so much of information all the time. It becomes a
Mm.
little overwhelming to know what's right and or what to do. Hence why I also kind of like went down the rabbit hole of Googling everything when I was in an anxious or depressional state because I just wanted answers quickly, not knowing that the simple thing like just breath work calms everything down in an instant for you to cognitively start making better decisions and learning to not make decisions when I'm feeling angry or feeling anxious, just to wait a while, process it, and then make a conscious decision that will benefit not just me and everybody around me as well. So simple thing for
Mm.
for for us to do is just take a deep breath, couple of deep breaths. So in that moment, it's a simple thing because that's mindfulness to know that okay, I am in a state of panic right now, but I am capable with the tool that I was born with to actually just calm myself down and take a minute.
Yeah. I think that's a key to learning self-regulation. Because there was a time where I found myself in a highly triggered state. And it reached a point where I felt like I was acting out of character or out of a way that I would want from myself or how I would like to see for myself. And that kind of erodes at your sense of self and your sense of self-worth. And it reached a point where I was like, okay, I need to sit with these triggers. But in that moment, it was like, I actually said that I needed to have a pack, like a little kit for,
Mhm.
for how do
Like a
I,
first aid
what
kit.
do I,
Yeah.
yes, yes, but for when you're triggered.
Yes.
And it was like, okay, so in the moment, I need to identify what I am feeling, you know? And the one thing that I remember, I don't know if it was like, in when I read it was excuse me. The one thing that stuck with me, two things actually. The one was that a thought will stay for 90 seconds. unless you feed into it. So when you have an unpleasant thought, the first thing you tell yourself is 90 seconds. I need 90 seconds.
90
So that
seconds.
is your first sense of comfort. Like it's going to pass in 90 seconds. That poor thought is going to run through you in 90 seconds. Then you go to, where am I feeling this? It's like, okay, what am I feeling, right? I'm feeling incredibly angry, right? The other part about being triggered is that we tend to resist the feeling. So we try to suppress it, or we resist it, or we act from the feeling of anger rather than what is underlying that, you know. And when I tend to say, okay, I am feeling angry and I'm feeling a burning sensation in my heart, right? And you need to then take one step back and say, anger means something is in pain. There's a pain that's like built up to a point where now it's exploding, you know? And if we ever sit with ourselves, it's like, my inner child feels unsafe. Right? Then it's, you know, my inner child is feeling unsafe because someone is shouting at me for something that feels unfair, you know, and that probably conjures up something that happened in the past. But instead of suppressing that, because we tend to go in a space of feeling ashamed, because it's like, I'm an adult, like, oh, why is my inner child acting up right now? You know, so I'm going to show my pain as anger because that's an ego-based response. But if in that moment you actually ask, you sit with the pain, or you make your inner child feel seen. So in that moment, you actually go and you say, it's going to be okay. You are safe. You are not in a place where you're going to get hurt.
Hurt, yeah.
And just allowing that emotion, that underlying pain to be seen, it subsides. It really does. But you have to allow it to flow through your body. And that's the thing, you know, for some people, breath work works. But you get other people that are so riled up in that moment where breath work is not. It's just like, you need to know that you've hurt me right now, and I'm going to tell you. And they become super reactive. So another thing that I realized was, you either can have a rubber band on you or hold ice. You know, if you're in a state of panic, especially, or anger, you hold ice, because what that does is that it brings you back to present. Because when you're in that moment of trigger, your mind is transported to a past experience that is informing your emotion right now. And that's why you are in a sense of reacting so much bigger than is needed. So when you put ice on, it's like, okay, so I'm in this room.
I'm present,
with
yeah.
a black wall behind me, and you come back to present. And as soon as you do that, then you're able to then say, okay, that emotion part is gone. And then you work through what needs to feel seen inside me right now. And you just have to sit with allowing that emotion to feel seen, and then the anger or the uncomfortable emotion that's making you act out of character will subside.
I usually do the five senses test.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Something
I
you can.
really,
Yeah.
yes, that
Yeah.
really helped me along the way with trigger logging as well. So if I'm thinking intrusively, I'd have even if I don't have the log with me, I usually just
Yes.
jot it down somewhere, and then I'll go home and log it, so I know that I've taken it out of my system, basically, and taken it out of my being, and putting it out there on the page, and just letting it go. That really helped my progression into recovery, because I needed, because I used to bottle, I bottle a lot of emotions inside internally. So I needed something that I could do, very basic, just to regulate me, just to know that I'm okay, and what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking is actually not my reality. Because I sometimes forget that where I am is pretty safe, but I was thinking I was not safe. So I needed to find certain avenues or certain tools that just help me in every day-to-day life. And it's going to be like that. I think probably for the rest of my life, because it's not something that you overcome overnight and you're resolved. That's it. It's fixed and you can just forget about it. But it's tools in
Yeah.
your arsenal that you, like you said, it's a first aid kit that you carry around with you. It might not be a physical first aid kit like, medically, but it's a kit that you have tools with you. So when something happens, you're safe. You can count on those tools to help you along.
Yeah. I think just to what you're saying as well, what would be an important question to ask yourself is, how am I feeling unsafe right now? We usually react to protect something. What am I protecting within myself right now? Or how do I feel unsafe right now? And I think when we answer that question, then we're able to bring ourselves back down to neutral again.
Yeah.
But it's quite a journey to take yourself from being hyper reactive in that moment. We usually want answers, or we want some kind of justice or whatever it is done in that moment, but to step back from a state of reactiveness and come, sit with that and come from a place of being responsive, in a sense, where you've had a time to process the emotions and then understand what is mine in this moment and what is the other person's, or what
Part
is
of
as
art,
a
yeah.
result of factors out of my control. And then I think that's when you gain perspective into how do you address this in a productive manner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's so much of overwhelmingness that we discussed? What's something that excites you or brings you back to, you take yourself and brings you so much of joy? Uh, how do you manage the two when you're feeling that overwhelmingness? What's your go-to practice to, to give yourself that little lift?
There's quite a few. I think animals. I have a cat.
Nice.
He's absolutely incredible. He's just at any point the most adorable, happy
What do they
being that
what do
there
they call
is.
them? Emotional.
Emotional support.
Yes.
Emotional support. Well, the purr of a cat is meant to heal bones. The frequency of the purr of a cat is known to be heal bones as well.
Or emotional buddies. That's what they call emotional buddies.
Emotional buddies, yeah. Emotional support animals, whatever it is. I feel like being around animals and taking a step outside. Like, I'm fortunate that I live, like, if you live near the ocean, to just make a
Nature.
conscious effort to go outside, to take a walk and to go outside, because scientifically walks are proven to actually help in that processing and unraveling of the thoughts that you're feeling in that time. And the thing about walking and running is that it's such a metaphor, because it's one step. Just take the next step, and then you start taking more and more steps,
Or
and then you're
more.
like, and in your head, you're just going through whatever happened, as in like, this was so wrong, and I'm so angry right now. But at the end of the walk, you're like, what was I angry about again?
Yeah.
Exhale.
Like that 90-second rule. It's gone. What was I thinking about? I don't even remember it anymore.
Yeah, yeah. So, I think I'll never stop exploring what is out there and what serves me in these moments, because it's the way to learn. You learn about yourself through these uncomfortable situations. You learn how to respond and how to nurture yourself through these uncomfortable situations. More often than not, when we have uncomfortable situations, it's a call to nurture a part of ourselves that we've not allowed the light of day to feel seen. So yeah, I'll never stop exploring, whether it's like take a walk, or like you say, you write it down, or ice, or any or all of it. And in that moment, I think sometimes people just need hugs. I do feel
Yeah.
that we're living in a
Physical.
world.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, hug is like
Oh,
an
yeah.
emotional distress. It just the two hearts come together, and I mean, we
Yes.
human beings, we love physical touch as well. That it gives you such a
Mm,
release of that cortisol that you really need, and brings you
yeah.
back to just feeling a a sense of calm and a sense of belonging.
Exactly. I think that probably the surest way to calm someone down, and especially when we're triggered and we're feeling unsafe in whatever story we're telling us, if you hug someone, instantly they're going to feel safe, or instantly they're going to feel like it's okay, or instantly they're going to feel seen. And usually those are the root causes of a reactive behavior. So I would say probably your first go-to must be find someone to hug you.
Yes,
Find your
we'll stand
loved
on the
one.
sign, free
Not
hugs,
through any
free
means.
hugs.
Yeah, like free hugs, exactly. And I think it would probably help to solve a lot of world problems.
Yeah, I love those skits. I love those videos where people are just like, come have a seat. And if people were having rough days, and it's just
Yeah,
allowed them to feel safe. You're creating a safe space for people to actually just pour their emotions out, and help them along their day. And
yeah,
those small little practices that make someone feel safe, and they feel like they're not alone, and they can go about their day more productively and more confidently, knowing that it's not too bad.
Hmm. I think also as the hug giver, it's just so amazing to know that you're able to support someone in a time of need in the
Yeah,
simplest, smallest way possible. It doesn't require any material possession of yours. It's simply just showing that you care in an instant.
yeah,
So, yeah, more hugs.
love that. I think that's a good place to wind down the podcast. But thank you, Zaheera. I truly appreciate you taking the time out to share so much of insightful wisdom. I learned a lot, truly inspirational, and I truly believe you should be in the wellness space more frequently. Please share your thoughts, and please share your insight with the world. I think a lot of people actually need it in this point in time. So thank you for sharing. I can't wait to see your journey, what it unfolds, and how it develops. And thank you for joining us. Thank you guys for everything today. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I will leave the links to Zaheera's socials in the description below. Check her out, follow her journey. And yeah, until the next one, guys. Thank you so much for joining in. Take care and stay zen. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was a great opportunity.
Thank you.